The other day, I posted a video and it was of me playing the Hoard Assault for the very first time, and somehow, out of the grace of all things amazing, I was able to set a high score of 1.2 million without really knowing the mechanics, without really understanding how the zombies work, how the mode works, how side jobs work, stuff like that. And I knew at the time I could probably do a lot better if given a little bit more time, some more effort, and some more understanding of how the game works and how the systems work in general. So the other night, I actually gave it another try, and honestly, I did so much better than I could have ever imagined, with some hiccups here and there, don't get me wrong, but everything went pretty well as planned, or whatever plan I may or may not have had. But, before I get into the run and show you kind of what tools I used, what strats I used, what the best way to kind of go about this situation would be, let me set the scene. It was a windy afternoon in the Cascades of... Wait. Sorry, wrong thing. In April, Ben Studios actually remastered Days Gone for the PS5, and with that remaster came this new Hoard Assault mode, and it's super interesting. The general premise is that this mode takes place on the actual story map, but it's broken into different sections. So you've got the Cascades, you've got the desert area, you've got a swamp area, I think, and then some other location. Haven't made it that far yet. But in each of these locations, you have boxes set around the map. Those contain weapons, upgrades, score, resources, anything you can really need for the run to be successful. And then you've also got supplies that are scattered around different POIs, locations, barns, out in the middle of the woods. And the idea is you survive on this map by traversing around, collecting these weapons, collecting these supplies, and fending off the hordes of freakers is what they call them. I don't want to call them that, so I'm going to call them zombies. Every time you get a kill on these zombies, you gain 1,000 points. In addition to those 1,000 points, you can also get points from the boxes. It's usually like 20,000 points. I usually don't collect those, so I don't really care. Using those kills, you add up your total score, and by the end of it, you kind of get a total based off of what injectors you used and stuff like that. Speaking of injectors are actually modifiers for this game, so you can think of them like the skulls in Halo, or I guess different game modifiers that will make the run unique, more difficult, easier, stuff like that. An example being, in this run, I actually ran 2 injectors, one for infinite stamina. I don't think I would have gotten this far without the infinite stamina, but having this injector on means that I actually lose 20% of my score when the run is over. So I compensated for that by also adding compulsive reloader. This one is pretty interesting, and it makes it a little bit more difficult. Anytime I reload my weapon before the ammo is gone, I lose the remaining bullets in that mag. This one actually gives me an extra 25% on top of my score at the end. So together, I just net a positive 5%. Now, I had no strategy going into this, mainly because I didn't quite understand the mechanics. It was also really late at night, so I wasn't in the mental state to be like, oh, I'm gonna plan my run down to the perfect T. None of that. However, what I saw as I reviewed the footage was a general understanding of 1, height equals kills, and 2, fire equals higher score. So if you put those two together, you kind of get the run that I got. And the reason height is a big thing is because it gets you over the height of the zombies and allows you to kind of throw your resources into the middle of the pack. And when you see how large these packs are, you'll understand why you want to get above them. And from what I've seen, the AI tends to run in a relatively straight line directly towards you, whether that's trying to cut you off while you're running around them, or if that's just running at you while you're running away from them, stuff like that. So I found if I run onto a building, vault on top of the roof, and I turn around, I usually have a good clump of them just standing down below, trying to get up, but kind of doing like a World War Z type of like pyramid climbing up. One good Molotov right there, one good napalm right there. Oh, they're gone. And that brings us to the next part of the strat. Fire. Molotovs are good. They have their uses. However, for large groups of enemies, they're not as good. They tend to only burn upwards of 10 at a time and then they dissipate. Whereas I found napalm just obliterates groups of them. You can throw them at the groups of zombies that are trying to climb up on the roof, and usually it'll take care of most of the horde. Tossing a couple of them into the groups really does dissipate the horde pretty effectively. So I found that's mainly what I relied on throughout most of this run. Grenades are also amazing, but in this mode, they're very, very rare, and I've only seen them within loot boxes, and unfortunately you can't craft them. So they're good to have. If you can get them, but in lieu of having grenades, you can always use pipe bombs. Pipe bombs aren't as useful. I would say go with Molotovs or napalm, but that's just me. Between getting height and napalm, this set me up for the best success of a run that I've seen so far. I can't say that I've done a whole lot of these, so I'm still very new at this, but given the success of doing these two things on repeat, I think it's a brilliant way to get maybe even upwards of 10 million, 20 million, however long you actually want to spend on this game. I think you could get there. Now this run didn't start off very great, I'll admit. There was a couple mistakes, a couple things I could have done better, but we started to pick up steam once we got to the lumberyard. And in this area specifically, there is a building with a couple boxes on the outside of it that are perfect for climbing up onto the roof and setting the whole horde ablaze. Now, you probably don't want to do this strategy until you hit the ultimate horde. And what the ultimate horde is a continuous stream of zombies. The more you kill, they just replenish. It's kind of like a Hydra. You cut off one head, two heads spawn in, but not really. In this, it's like you kill one replenishes, stuff like that. So you're never really running out of freaker zombies. So you can really just kill them on repeat. So doing this strategy really works when that horde is coming, especially because once you hit that horde, there's no stopping, there's no looting, and you kind of run into a situation where the only thing you can rely on is the side jobs for materials, health, and ammo if you haven't already picked up everything in the area. And that brings us to the side jobs. In this run, I relied heavily on side jobs once I got past maybe the 25 to 30 minute mark. This is because once you've stayed in an area for an excessive period of time, loot doesn't respawn, so you've kind of gone through your whole stockpile of inventory items, you've crafted everything you could, but the zombies are still coming. Side jobs are, in this case, challenges. You can complete them within the given amount of time, and they provide you with materials, ammo, and health. They're extremely helpful, however, they come with the downside of some of them may not be completable once you hit that ultimate horde stage. And this is the huge bottleneck I ran into. There were so many instances where I just couldn't complete the challenge. The challenge in particular was a melee challenge. I had to get 5 melee kills in the horde. How was I supposed to do that? You see what I'm going up against, right? Every time I tried to swing a bat at them, or my plank of nails, every time I tried to swing that at them, I would get engulfed. And if I wasn't quick enough, I usually died, or I would be close to dying. I didn't die in this one, but you get my point. Now I can already hear the comments. Just wait it out. Complete the next one. You'll be okay. You could just. That's a waste of time. Let's be honest. If you shoot them, you get points, but once you get into the millions, you're not really gaining enough points through your guns that makes any sense. And I think it's easier to hold on to the ammo for when the challenge comes up that you can use the ammo in a more productive means. And at one point in this run specifically, I ran into melee kill after melee kill after melee kill. I think it went 4 times in a row. I don't really remember. It was crazy. And that resulted in over 10 minutes of my time spent running around trying to find resources to craft more Molotovs, to craft more napalm, to craft more pipe bombs, to get really anything that was going to significantly impact my score. And I don't know if this is a design choice. It very much could be. It could just be their way of trying to give you a second chance at completing a challenge if you missed it. But I think there should be some kind of check and balance there if it was a design choice. I'm not a game designer. I can't really speak to that. But it could also very much be my bad luck that I got it 3 times in a row. I don't know. That's crazy, but it happens. Regardless of the time wasted, it resulted in me leaving the area and going to find resources in another place. Unfortunately, for my decision making, I chose one of the worst places to go and a place that resulted in a death in one of my last runs. And the reason this place sucks is because one, almost all of the ledges on the outside of the area are not vaultable. You just can't do anything. I don't know why. Two, there's water outside of it. And water in this game, if it's above your shin, you slow. You slow. And you get attacked by all of the zombies and it's a bad time. And then three, there wasn't anything there. There was no point. I maybe made out with a few scrap to make some pipe bombs and that was it. And the pipe bombs didn't even really do anything. So thankfully, after 10 minutes or so of running around, hoping for some loot to pop up, I got a challenge that I was actually able to complete. And it helped me kind of get back on my feet in a sense. Because nothing ever lasts long when it comes to me. Bear in mind, all of this section is going to be happening after 1 a.m. So I'm really not the most aware player ever. But regardless of my carelessness, my hope at this point was that I don't run into that same issue again. Mainly because I don't know how long I could feasibly run around hoping for a better challenge. And it just was boring. If it came up again and I was going to go back to back with those, I was probably going to quit. Now, with my newfound resources and the ability to actually complete challenges, I continued training the zombies around the lumberyard, hoping for the best score that I could possibly get. We were currently on track to blow my old record out of the water. I mean, we kind of already did at this point, but I'm willing to see how far we can take this. Unfortunately, that was until one wrong vault broke my game. Now, I can't know for certain that this was definitively the way that the game broke, but all was working perfectly fine up until this point. And it's totally possible that this was a result of how many zombies were on the screen, the amount of fire that keeps going off, just the sheer time that I've been playing this. It could have been a number of different things. All I knew at the time was that this was basically the end. Without being able to shoot my weapons, without being able to complete challenges, there was nothing. I didn't have anything. Without the challenges, there was no napalm. Without the napalm, there was no way of racking up significant amounts of points. I can't shoot, so I can't even take on the minuscule amounts there. It was all dead. It seemed like the cursor thought that it was behind my head, or maybe that it thought that there was a wall in front of me. It's hard to say. I was devastated. Aside from a few missteps here and there, almost dying a couple times, and the challenges that caused me to miss out on like 14 minutes of killing, I could have likely hit 10 million if only the game didn't bug out. Given it probably would have taken another hour, maybe hour and a half, depending on challenges. But this was a generational run for me, and I thought that I could have taken this all the way. My initial goal was only 5 million, and we kind of almost barely hit that, but I knew the run was over. I desperately tried to fix it. I really did. I tried adjusting my aim. I tried changing the stance that I was standing on from left to right. I tried letting them hit me and seeing if that changed anything. I even pulled out my binoculars, which I've done many times healing before. There just wasn't a way to change this. I thought that maybe resetting the game would probably change it, but at that point, the run's over. Nothing worked. I tried one last time to increase my score, throwing a couple napalms off of the roof, but with the trajectory that I was forced into, it fell into my face and then skipped the entire horde in general. I didn't have anything, and this was the end. So, in a great fashion, I did as anybody in my position would have, obviously. I steadied my nerves. I pulled out my trusty plank and started swinging. In the end, the only reward was the 5.1 million score. Thanks to the 5% bonus we got, it was an achievement, and we did completely obliterate my old score, but I knew deep down I could have done better.